Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen. I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played 11 seasons for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey. And Tom, the New York Rangers met their end. I think you have to look at it if you're a Rangers fan, is that they were really playing with house money. And
Yeah,
I know Gerard Gallant tried to persuade us that that they had done all the growing up they needed to do in the first two rounds. But I never really kind of accepted that because I do think there's something to be said for the experience of going through it and learning from that. And I'm not sure you can do it all in the same season, maybe, but
yeah,
in the end, I think it was, at least in my opinion, it was the kind of know-how that the Lightning had to figure out, how to survive when, they weren't necessarily overwhelmingly dominant. They have good survival skills. They know
yeah.
how to get through it all. But anyway, what was your take?
Well, a few things. They remind me so much of the New York Islanders of the late '70s and early '80s that we end up losing to all the time with the Rangers. Tampa is. I mean, they just. You're right. They're not as good. Clearly, you touched on that during the season. They're not as good as they were the last 2 years, but they just find a way to win.
Right.
Rangers had them up 2 games to none. The first 2 games here in New York. Clearly, Tampa was rusty from the long layover they had. Rangers then were up in the third period 2-0, and then Tampa comes back and wins that game 3, and then goes on and wins the next 3 games to win the series. The Rangers had a few things. They played 2 7-game series, and Gerard Gallant was asked after the loss, did fatigue have something to do with it? He clearly said yes, it did. They were tired, and they looked like it. I don't know all the injuries that they had. Was Panarin was hurt, Kreider, whoever. A lot of guys are obviously playing hurt. And it happens to all teams in the playoffs, but you could tell they just ran out of gas. And like you said, Tampa were rusty in the first 2 games, having that long layover after sweeping Florida. But then once they got going, they know how to win. Kucherov got better and better. Vasilevsky got better and better. Stamkos, they remind me so much of the Islanders that they just find a way to win.
Yeah, and they're good players. I mean, they were playing really, in my opinion, shorthanded against the Rangers because we just tend to look across and see Kucherov and Hedman and Stamkos still there. But, you got to remember that none of those guys were Tampa Bay's best player last year. It was Braden Point.
Yeah.
And he was not, he had a high ankle sprain or whatever it is that he had. But, I mean, you got to give full marks to the, Tampa Bay Lightning for the way they played and having – kind of the stick to it. I mean, this is really an impressive run. Win, lose, or draw. This is one of the most remarkable accomplishments that we've seen over the last 40 years, not since the Islanders. I mean, they won 2 back to back, and now.
Kevin's frozen on us there now. So what he's touching on here is the run that Tampa is currently on. Sorry, Kevin, you froze on us, sir.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is just a remarkable run. Win, lose, or draw here. And I'm not so sure they can't beat Colorado. I think Colorado's the better team, but, they've got issues. Kadri is hurt as well, and they're missing Gerard. I mean, those are 2 significant losses. And, you can make the case that, the big difference maker again is Cale Makar, but Tampa Bay has Victor Hedman, different kind of defenseman, but still an impact difference maker.
Goaltending to me too is, I mean, I don't know who they're going to go with. Kemper, I guess, is healthy enough to play,
right?
And the other guy, Joseph, what was he? Frankie or whatever it was?
Francoeur, yeah.
To me, and Vasilevsky's back to being Vasilevsky. See, that's the thing to me. I'm with you. I'm picking Tampa, and I think. Listen, I don't think it's going to be a sweep, but I think they can get it done in 6 games against it. But it's going to be the goaltending. It's to me, that's Vasilevsky's decided he wants to win again too. So
yeah, and I mean that's a real big advantage, and it's it's not like that Vasilevsky has a chance to be a little better than their goalie. Like he has a chance to be a lot better. If he plays at his best and they play at their best. Vasilevsky is the best, goalie in the league. He didn't have the best season. That was certainly Igor Shesterkin, but He was, he is the best goalie in the league. I don't know how anybody can dispute that, given what his playoff numbers are and given, his just general performance level since he got into this league. So, I mean, he's still a, guy in his prime. Like, he's not even close to being, in the later stage of his career.
And even though the Rangers broke that record of 17 straight wins after a loss in the playoffs, that's still pretty impressive. That's still the same team that, did that 17 times in a row. They'd lose a game and then not lose the next one for sure. And that's more than some kind of luck or a little bit of, lucky bounces. That says something about the hockey team, that they know how to win. And they were down 2-0 to the Rangers. And again, they almost lost that third game. They lose that third game. To me, the thing is, though, the way they played, they were going to come back and win a series even. They were just playing that well once they got rolling. So,
and from the Rangers' perspective now, usually you say, well, you go back to the drawing board, but, the Rangers are close. I think, from the outside looking in, they've got to clean up their game defensively.
Yes. Shesterkin covered up for a lot of mistakes that they made.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
that's
sure.
That became their identity, though. They're saying, listen, he's that good. So
I threw out that theory that, that it gave them license to play like that, as they knew they had that. But, you can't give up. It was 14.6 dangerous scoring chances per game. Compare that to the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are in the 6 range. So
unless you're creating that many chances offensively for yourself, then you can at least say, well, we're giving up those chances because we're creating.
Yeah,
they really didn't do that.
No. I mean, they had some chances and they score. And the one thing I do need to point out is that you don't always need a dangerous scoring chance to score. I mean, so every once in a while you fire one from 60 feet out that pinballs off 3 people and goes in the net. You just there's some luck involved in this game, but I think the Rangers were sloppy throughout the playoffs defensively.
Because they were young too, right? Some of their key guys,
right?
Players, and that's that's just going to happen. You're just going to make mistakes sometimes. You may be overplaying it. You're excited. You're nervous. Bad decisions.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't necessarily buy the Gerard Gallant about how, well, they've learned a lot. Well, yeah, they did, but, you don't learn it all. Like, there's no doubt. Let's just look at yourself, Tom. You were a different player at 27 than you were at 22.
Yeah, it is funny. You look back at that first year that I've talked about. We had a long run ourselves, went to the semifinals just like this team did. And I thought, man, I really learned a lot. I look back at some of the old tapes of the games and I go, man, I made some bonehead plays, just throwing the puck away. I was laughing with, I think it was James Patrick. We were talking about that. And we're both like, geez, looking back at the old film, we're like, what was I thinking some of these plays when you're a young player? So,
yeah. Well, and, that's for every player, like, even though Wayne Gretzky put up some amazing totals, but I bet if we had him on there, he would say, I was a much better player at 27 or 28. I just knew more about, what was going on. And your environment changes. Like, the environment didn't allow him to score 200 points anymore. Like, it wasn't like he wasn't as good. It's just, everything changes, the way we play the game. And also the defense, started to react and to play against Wayne and preventing him from getting into his office and not chasing him behind the net, except for Tom. Tom still wanted to chase him behind the net. Well,
I tell everybody else in the locker room, don't chase him behind the net. I go chasing behind the net.
Yeah, well, do as I say, not as I do.
Here's an interesting one too. I don't know if you heard it or not. Capo Caco was scratched the final game.
Yeah.
A healthy scratch. And after the game, Gallant was asked about that. He was clearly agitated and did not want to discuss it, didn't give an answer. So.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
Surprising. That kid line, Capo Caco, Lafreniere, and Hedl had really played well. And for large stretches, there was really maybe the best line on the team for a while. So to break up that line and then to not play Capo Caco. Now, he clearly was not playing as well as Hedl and Lafreniere. It was those two guys that were playing better, but it wasn't like he was playing bad. And to scratch him out of the game, and again, they clearly said it was a healthy scratch. There was no excuse made, and Gallant did not want to talk about it after the game. So, that decision isn't just made lightly. That's a decision that I'm sure they even talked to Chris Drury about the same, because this is a young player with a big future. And do you damage the player at all? And listen, it's one game. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world for him, but to take him out of the lineup that's a big step. And I don't, and again, it's not like it was somebody that's going to be scoring a lot more goals than him. And I don't think he was a liability defensively. So that was surprising.
Well, I would assume maybe not, but it may leak out over the next few days. I'm sure Larry Brooks is on it.
Yeah,
trying to kind of sort it all out, and you wonder if it was off the ice.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think it's a discipline problem. He doesn't seem to be. That'd be really shocking to hear. I mean, he seems like a young professional, like really working hard at his craft.
No, you're probably right. Yeah, maybe it's
Trouba made mistakes as a younger player. Well, first of all, I don't know if I totally agree with that. With Trouba, but again, listen, you're going to make mistakes. That's part of the game. So you watch any great young player or any great players. I mean, Ray Bourque to me was one of the best defensemen that's ever played the game, but I remember watching him a lot, and he made mistakes because he's always trying to make something happen. Trouba gets to play big minutes against the top lines on other teams. Mistakes are going to happen. So you may be right, Russell, when you say he made as money any younger player, but that's you break down any the teams that won, even the good teams, the Tampa and Colorado now. These guys make mistakes. That's what the playoffs. That's what hockey's all about. So.
Yeah, and one of the axioms in hockey is that you can't make a guy who's a non-scorer into a scorer, but you can make a poor defensive team into a good defensive team. Yeah, I mean, it's just commitment and everything else. So I'm sure, like next season, the mandate will be for Gallant to get this team to play, a little more solid.
You got chickens out in the backyard?
I don't. I'm actually at my son's house, and there are some chickens in the area here. So
I heard that noise. I was like, "Has Kevin got some chickens going on?"
Yeah, I don't have any. I have no chickens in my yard, but I'm in Illinois. I'm actually in Chicago. So for some reason that there's a in Chicago, it's kind of people just have chickens in their backyard.
I've heard more and more people talk about having chickens.
Yeah. So there are some chickens out there. I was at the show. I was going to tell this incredibly interesting tale. My son, actually, I'll tell it now, then we'll get back to hockey. But they have a bunny here, and he was telling me the story that they keep the bunny in a cage, and so they went out yesterday morning, and the bunny was gone, and there was fur laying around, and my son thought, somebody came in and, let's just say, liberated that bunny, and there was trouble, and so he just thought, well, that happens, and but later that afternoon, it was that night, they went in the backyard, and there was another bunny in his cage, a white bunny. And, like as my son said, how many pure white bunnies are running around the streets of Chicago? But there was a white bunny.
The bunny that was stolen or was taken was not white.
Well,
so clearly
no, it was not. It was just it's a kind of a furry special breed bunny. And so we thought, and so they just left the cage open, figuring if the bunny showed up, maybe he belongs elsewhere, we'll just leave it open. So the next morning they were just looking out their window and saw their own bunny was walking around the yard, and now the white bunny was gone. So it is quite a mystery here on what has happened with my son's family's bunny. And, so there's been a lot of jokes about, they just made a housing exchange for one day, just like you do.
I'd like to say, okay, so clear, and the white bunny has not been seen since. It was never seen before that.
No, white bunny has disappeared again.
So did somebody come? This intrigues me. So let's think about this. So somebody came. I mean, bunny just doesn't leave by itself, right? It had to open.
Well, no, I mean, the cage too is on the second floor. So that bunny needed help to get down off the. It's like there's a 2-level cage, and he's on the top.
So somebody comes and takes their bunny.
Takes the bunny, and then maybe thought, better of it, and then exchanged them and got a new bunny and throw it in there. And
they're going to try to, what was that movie with Glenn Close where she put the bunny in the, with Michael Douglas Jr. They had an affair.
Right. Yeah.
She cooked the bunny. So maybe they tried to cook the bunny, and the bunny jumped out of the pot. They said, well, we're not going to be able to eat this bunny, so let's take it back and get the white one.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a kind of a fascinating story about all that.
That'd be awesome.
So actually, now that my wife must have been concerned about our chickens talking because she was out there and she's got them all squared away now. So my wife talks to the animals. So
did she talk to them? So now these are not your family's chickens.
They are. Yeah. My son has 3 chickens as well. So, but he's not the only person in the area. When I went out for my walk this morning with my wife and my daughter-in-law, we passed several houses that have chickens. It's just a thing, I don't know. People, you get free eggs, essentially.
Right.
So
now, did they get to the point where they eat the chicken, or it's just eggs?
Yeah, they do get to that point. So after they stop, laying eggs. So
here we got. People are going to work on this case here. We're going to get this solved. I think the cage is actually the other side of the magician's top hat, and he put the wrong bunny back. So maybe it wasn't. That could be. Maybe a magician was practicing.
Yeah. Right? Well, I was going to post this on Facebook only because there are you think people can't solve these kind of things, but maybe there's a logical explanation out there that I'm just because I don't know anything about bunnies, or my son doesn't know anything about them. But I mean,
some, religious thing or something, right? There's this, like
or they stole the bunny and then the bunny got away, and so they got the new bunny, and then the white bunny, they just thought, well, those kids are going to miss their bunny, and they put that bunny back. But then my son just left the cage open, so that bunny just escaped and got eaten by a raccoon or something.
Right.
So.
I'm gonna have to do some research. See if there's any kind of like religious sect or something out there that there's some of the maybe like. So is this a Sunday? This all happened?
This all happened within a 24-hour period.
Okay.
But the bunny, their bunny was gone for about 24 hours.
Okay.
So
interesting. All right, we're gonna have to do some homework on that. Tom, what's the trick to not giving up a strong shift immediately after scoring? Rangers constantly. So that was an issue. They scored finally, and then Tampa came back and scored right away, like within 20 seconds, like that winning goal. Listen, I think it's a combination of a few things. I just think Tampa, like we talked before, knows how to win. And when they get scored against or they lose a game, they know what to do to get right back at it. Either they lose the game, they regroup, they make the adjustments, whatever they do, and they come back and play stronger the next game. And I think that's the way they are during the game too, that they want that will to win, that knowledge how to win, what it takes. And I'm sure on the bench, as soon as they get scored on, they're saying, "Oh, guys, we need a good shift right now." And they come back and score. And I think the Rangers at that point they were drained. They just had nothing there. Listen, I love the team. I think it's got a huge future ahead of them. But again, Shesterkin covers up for a lot of mistakes for them, and I think it's just he just couldn't do it all the time. He just get so many shots.
Yeah, I'm not sure they were tired. This is a young team. They were excited. So
I think you just get beat up, right? I mean, Tampa's a big physical team. Yeah.
But. I mean, I don't, it's almost to me like I've talked to players through the years and they all say the same thing. When you're in the middle of a thing, you've got adrenaline going, you feel good about your team, you're confident. He said, when you start to feel the aches and pains as soon as it's over.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. And I did feel like that too. Once we were done, you didn't realize how tired you were. But
right.
You didn't feel like that while you're playing. Yeah.
Right. But, the thing about so bothersome about giving up goals after you've just scored one is usually you have the momentum.
Right.
You're feeling good. You've gotten it back. You've just kind of put them on their heels in theory. That's why one goal sometimes leads to 2 and 3,
Right.
So,
right.
But that's not what happened with the Rangers. So,
Why this species watch? Why they are disappearing from the countryside? Why rabbits are disappearing? So maybe.
I live out in my the other thing, we got to talk about turtles too. We saw the biggest turtle yesterday. On the lake that I have a house on a lake too, and there's a lot of turtles that are there.
Oh.
But we saw the biggest snapper yesterday. It was in our driveway.
Oh,
And of course, my wife went out to engage it in conversation. And that turtle, those turtles are smart. That turtle would not let my wife get behind it. So my
okay.
wife was turned around because he was thinking she was going to pick it up and take it back to the lake.
Right.
And that turtle just kept turning. As my wife started to walk around, he just kept turning around. Like he was going to face her. You know, it was like a wrestler. He was going to stay square with her, you know.
Actually, on my walk in the morning when I go to Todd's Point in Greenwich, I should have taken a picture of it. They put a new sign up there, like Turtle Watch. Turtles crossing the road. I think it's for like the next eighth of a mile. They said it was. So it's that turtle area where you have to be careful you don't run over turtles.
Yeah, no, you do. But this one was really big. I really had not seen them that big. You know, my wife has been to Galapagos Island. And there they got those giant tortoises, and her and two of my daughters, they were on this, little, you can either take like the big boat with the tourists and all that, or you can like get on a little, small sailboat with like 8 people, and they chose that, and they were with people.
I didn't know this about your wife. She had the chickens in the house.
Pardon me?
Is the chicken in the house now?
Oh, no. There's no chickens in the house. She went outside, and I think did you put them back in their cage?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I was just looking for Rosie.
I didn't know that your wife had this thing that she's a little bit of an animal.
Yeah. She handles. I mean, we have snakes and stuff. Like, when I see a big snake, I go in the house. And my wife wants to come out and converse with it.
Have a little conversation.
Yeah, and she was really intrigued because there were 2 snakes, and they were friends, and she wanted to go and see what that was all about.
And what do the snakes talk back to her? Like, did she ask you to have a conversation?
No, but like I said, they interact with her like the turtle did yesterday when. And that's what it reminded me. It was a wrestling match. When you see 2 guys locking up and you want to stay square. Right. So that you can't be taken down. Well, that's how that turtle was. Right. I'm going to stay square with her.
I think if she had got to know the turtle better, the turtle would have said, "Okay, I need to relax here. She's going to help me. She's going to put me back in the water."
Yeah, although we did not really need to do that because that turtle hauled shell and got back to the lake. We don't know where it went, but we went in the house, and by the time we came back, he was nowhere to be seen. So
okay, so it's all right.
So, then turtles, they can move.
Right.
They look.
This is the movie. Fatal Attraction was the movie Glenn Close.
Oh yeah, that's right. Fatal Attraction. It's our good friend Brian Dowd. He's all over it. Good deal. Yeah. So anyway, let's getting to this series coming up. I mean, this really, they had it going. The league had it all going on because no matter what the matchup was going to be in the final with the Final Four, we were going to have a terrific final. Like the Rangers Colorado would have been great. And Tampa Bay, Colorado, like that's just an awesome potential series. And right after I started talking about the ratings on the NHL, I started to read that these last few games that the ratings have been very good. We've been over a couple million people watching, which is really good. So. Those earlier ratings when we were down with the PBA, the Pro Bowlers Association, didn't take into account these latter games. So
right. And the Garden was rocking too. The Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was.
Well, it's really been a good, playoff, and it's going to be fascinating to see. Is Connor McDavid and Draisaitl going to end up as the top 2 scorers and not play the,
That's right.
That's right.
Well, that's a good point. So who is then? So 2 questions: who do you think is going to win the series, and how many games? And secondly, right now, who would you pick as Conn Smythe winner? It's the most valuable player in the playoffs.
Wow, that's a great question. I'd say it's Cale Makar. I'd say he's the clubhouse leader, and I guess from Tampa, you'd have to say Kucherov or Vasilevsky, maybe Stamkos. Stamkos is. Stamkos is obviously a much bigger factor. He was hurt in the past, so now all of a sudden he's had a good playoff. So that's what I would say. But Cale Makar has been unbelievable. But there's only been a handful. It's 4 or 5 that have won the Conn Smythe on a losing team. So you really should win if you want to win the Conn Smythe.
Who's the last one to do it? Was it Ron Hextall? He did that, right, with Philly?
Yeah, that was 87. No, we've had guys since then. Brodeur won. Or no, it was Jaguar. Jaguar got one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, when he was in Anaheim, right? Is that
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm picking Tampa in 6. Who do you have?
Yeah, I got Tampa as well. It might go 7. So,
Okay.
and I think Tampa can win on the road. So,
And if Tampa wins it, then that means Vasilevsky's got to play really well. And I think he's got to be in the conversation for Conn Smythe right now. And I think if Tampa wins it, I'm picking Vasilevsky to be.
yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what kind of final they have. It's interesting. In the NBA, the MVP goes to the top player in the final series.
Right.
And technically in the NHL, it's for the entire postseason.
Oh.
So technically, for example, you could give that to Connor McDavid if you want. That's never happened. Even though the rules allow that, the connotation is that you got to get to the final to be in it, even though that's not what the rules say.
Right.
So
they're both what, at 30 and 30 some points? Is that what they?
Yeah, they're both in over 30. Yeah.
Right. And then what's the closest player to them? Are they in the?
Well, going into that last game, I had looked it up, and for the Rangers, it was Zibanejad was closer than anyone, and then Cale Makar was 11, and it might have been Kucherov at 12.
Really? That
yeah.
far back in total points?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't
Well, let's
realize
bring it up because that wasn't after last game, and
while you're looking that up too, did your wife happen to see? And I thought of you a lot yesterday when I made my meal. Oh, lost Kevin here. I thought of Kevin a lot yesterday when I made the meal because he reprimanded me for my food not being very colorful or having the same color many months ago there. So we had I'd have the salmon with we mashed up. That's the first time I think I made mashed sweet potatoes. And then I made that salad with tomatoes, cucumber, and watermelon, some chives in there too. Oh, I was in the city a couple weeks ago, and I had lunch at a restaurant. There's Kevin coming back. Just discussing. Hold on, Kevin.
yeah, I just had a senior moment there where I was trying to call up the things that I accidentally I X'd you out. So
did you find the stats?
no, I'm just
Okay.
now getting to them. So.
All right. So I was just talking about. I was thinking about this is how much influence you have over me, you and your wife, and my cooking.
Yeah.
And you reprimanded me severely months ago there for my food being all the same color all the time. So yesterday, did you see what I made yesterday?
I did not. I really was not on Facebook yesterday. I'm
So
sorry.
made salmon and nothing special with that. This first time I mashed up a sweet potato. I did that. Some chives on top of that. And then I made a salad with tomato, cucumber, and watermelon. Oh,
Wow. Watermelon salad.
yeah. I was in the city a couple weeks ago, and they had the same kind of thing. They had a salad with watermelon. I've never seen that before. Maybe that's, I've never seen it before. So I ordered it, and I was surprised how good it tasted.
Wow. Sounds great. Okay, here we go. So Connor McDavid has 33. Draisaitl has 32. Zibanejad was 9 points behind McDavid, but now he's out. Kucherov is 10 points behind McDavid, and Adam Fox is next. He's also 10 points, and then Cale Makar is 11 points. So, 10 points. I mean, I'd say it's 50-50 whether or not Connor McDavid's going to end up as the leading scorer.
I'm sure that's happened before, but two players that are not in the finals to be the leading scorers.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it just shows you how well Connor McDavid has had. And I think we talked about this last podcast, although, I've been on other podcasts that's discussed this, so maybe we did. But, I had said before, people have asked me whether or not the Oilers should sign Evander Kane. And I said, yes, because Connor McDavid's going to want Evander Kane. Right. And I think you owe it to Connor McDavid to get the players he wants to play with. I mean, what does he have to do? Like, he did everything in his power to try to win that series. And he played well. He played at the highest level. And there were some times when they shut him down, but he's not Superman. He needs help. And if he said to me, Mr. Holland, I need Evander Kane, I think you got to go out and get him. You got to figure it out. You got to try.
How much do you think he's worth then?
Well, it's going to be tough. I guess what I would say to Connor if I was Ken Holland is I would say, look, we can't give him a long-term deal, so he's going to have to accept a shorter deal. And I've had GMs tell me this, and it makes some sense. You can sign anyone to a short-term deal for whatever price it is. You can figure it out for 1 year or two, but it's when you get into the long-term deals that you get yourself in trouble. But I don't know. I mean, he's probably worth $7+ million, but I don't think you can give him that. So,
but do you think somebody else will? See, I think that's the thing. Somebody else.
Well, that's going to be the problem. But if you're Evander Kane and you've had all this trouble during your career, wouldn't you want it? Like he didn't have any trouble. He took a foolish penalty,
right,
but there's no off ice trouble. So, and you're playing with Connor McDavid. So, why wouldn't you take a little less to play with Connor McDavid?
Okay, and it's a good point. I'm with you, but he's also the guy that likes Vegas. He likes to gamble. I'm sure Edmonton isn't his ideal city, right?
No, but I mean, don't you have to try to stay away from that?
Well, I agree 100%. If I'm advising him, that's what I would say to him. Listen, you need to stay in Edmonton where you can. It's harder to get in trouble. But if, like, let's say it is, well, it's not going to be Vegas. Let's say it's Florida or Tampa or somebody in Dallas, some city that he may want to be at more than Edmonton. Does Dallas come along and offer him contract, less state tax? There's a lot of advantages.
Yeah.
Well,
Dallas doesn't have the money, so it won't be them. But somebody.
Yeah, somebody offer him something. But yeah, then we'll find out what he's really made of, right? If he wants to take less, let's say somebody offers him 7 years, but he gets 3 or 4 from Kenny Holland and Edmonton, so he decides to take that because he wants to play with Connor McDavid. Then that says a lot about him. Maybe he's grown up. Maybe he's learned his lessons too when he wants to win. So
yeah, I don't understand too. Like, will there be? A settlement with the Sharks?
Well, see, that's another point. I just assumed that it had all been taken care of. I forgot that it hasn't been taken care of because if they go to an arbitration and decides that the Sharks should not have terminated the contract, that the contract's still in place, but he still has a contract. Then you can't change the contract.
Well, that's what my question was. That I keep seeing people discussion about a settlement. Because they terminated his contract. Can they do that? Because that would seem to me.
Collective bargaining agreement says that you cannot change that contract. Once the contract is signed, you can't change it.
Yeah. But, if you're Evander Kane, do you want to step back in where that group has said so?
So
yeah.
that's, I guess, if he signs a new contract, maybe he gets more. I can't remember what he was making there with San Jose, what was left of that contract. But if he signs a new contract, let's say with Edmonton, does he just say, well, then, end the arbitration? I don't want that contract. I've got this new contract but then I think it goes against the collective bargaining agreement though.
Yeah, that's what I've always thought. I don't know. I wish, we need someone who's an expert on the CBA because people have discussed this like it was going to happen, like there was going to be a settlement, but I thought it went against the CBA.
Yeah, it clearly does. I know that unless the NHL Players Association and the league get together and say, here's an exception here that will.
Well, but if you did that, what would stop, your Connor McDavid and your Mill?
I think where Kevin's going is now you've set a precedent, right? That's why they have the rule like that. Sorry, Kevin, you froze there, but I think Connor McDavid could then do the same thing, right?
Right. Yeah, Connor McDavid could. Sign with the Rangers or sign with the Bruins.
And that's one of the big things with the Players Association in the league, where people say, well, why don't they figure this out? Well, it's not just about figuring out this one issue. It's about setting a precedent that now affects other contracts down the road. That's why they don't let that stuff happen. Susan brings up a good point here, too. And I think she's feeling better now, thank God. That I agree with the Evander Kane thing. If you're Connor McDavid, you're going to want him there, but they got to get a goalie too.
Yeah, they did. I mean, at the season end, Ken Holland did say that he had to get a goalie. He did say he was going to try to sign, but they don't have any money. Like somebody's got to go. Duncan Keith has got to move him out, and he's in a unique situation. Like he actually could retire because he's his contract, like the money he's going to get. His cap hit is 5 and change, but $1 million. But I think he only gets $1.5 million next season, so that's a little bit easier to retire than when you're, no one walks away from $7 million or $6 million. So
Here's big news too from Susan. You guys like this? You knew this.
I saw that last night. I actually, Susan, I because I had just fresh from going to New York and I had seen some plays. I wanted to see how they did. So last night late, I was checking out and I saw the Take Me Out had won an award. So
disgusting. Listen, nudist.
So
yeah, Tony.
Yeah. So anyway, it was.
So anybody that doesn't know, this is a movie about basically being inside the locker room for Major League Baseball. So that's what this.
And guys walk around the stage totally nude. So some really clever stuff. There's a thing about a soliloquy that an accountant talks about why the game of baseball is so perfect, and it's about the fairness of it all. And everybody gets 3 strikes, no matter who you are, whether you're a conservative or liberal or Democrat or Republican or you're old or young. Everybody, he says, absolutely everybody gets 3 chances. Right. And it's just a really well done soliloquy.
In the meantime, everybody's walking around naked.
So, yeah, he was not nude when he made that statement, but he just talked about it. And then he said, there's an umpire to arbitrate to make sure there's fairness.
Was the umpire naked? Naked umpires too, or no?
Pardon me?
There's no naked umpires, all right?
No. It's so fascinating that your entire emphasis on that is about the nudity. So.
Well, mess. You sit how many other plays have been
Well, and there are shower scenes.
Really?
Yeah, Jesse Tyler Ferguson, who was on Modern Family, was he one? I don't know if Susan can answer this, but was he the accountant in that?
So Jesse Tyler Ferguson was the accountant in the movie?
Oh, I don't know. That's why I'm asking Susan, because I didn't see the modern version of it. I had seen it years ago.
Naked accountant. They got a naked accountant too?
No, there's no nudity with the accountant.
Okay.
But I just wondered if he played the accountant.
So think if you're an actor. I guess if you're an actor that's struggling, you get this part, you think, okay, I guess I'm going to have to be naked. But but
I tell you, I have seen other plays with nudity in it. I've seen Jude Law was on Broadway. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. As my wife said, she hadn't seen the modern version either, and she said, well, that would be his role for sure. So, I've seen other plays where there's been nudity on stage, but not for the duration that you see. There's just a lot of it in. But Hair back in the early days when that was on, and there's I saw a play that Jude Law was the star, and he walked across, got out of a bathtub, and he was naked. You do see it. This one just strikes you because I told you the story. I had my teenage kids with me, and I had no idea at the time. Although they did tell me before I went in, but by that point, you're just so. So anyway.
I've learned something. I just didn't know about all this.
Well, it's not commonplace, but it does occur. So, but getting back to the Stanley Cup final, and I think this summer is going to be a lot of fun as well. I think we're going to see a lot of player movement. And there's some big names. Actually, surprising, but you don't normally see like a lot of premium centers, and they're older, but we are going to see it. Claude Giroux is going to be in the marketplace. Possibly Evgeny Malkin is going to be in the thing. We've got Kadri.
Vegas, something's going to happen too, right? They've got to move.
Yeah, they're going to have to make some moves. Dadonov for sure. He's already been traded once, and they canceled that trade. It's I'm surprised there's no jokes about the cancel culture with that, But then we've got Trocheck, another good center. So rarely do we have, and that's a really good point, because when the salary cap was introduced, and I just kind of wrote this as my lead, but in my desk drawer, I have a story in which I quoted a bunch of general managers, prominent general managers, who said, now that we have a salary cap, the game is going to change because, there's going to be a lot of turnover. You may lose your star player, but you're going to bring in a new star player. There'll be a lot of guys available every summer. Well, it hasn't happened like that at all. Almost, for the most part, I would say 90% of teams have kept their top players. they've been able to retain them. Not all of
the
them.
teams that win, Kev.
Pardon me?
For the teams that win in particular, or just teams?
No, just in general. There was predictions that we were going to see a lot of player movement through free agency. That right. Teams were going to hold the line a little bit because they know they could get someone else. If they lose their guy, they're going to get another guy because someone else's guy is gone. And they thought that this would prompt everyone to kind of hold the line on salaries a little bit because there'll be supply and demand. There was going to be a lot of people in the marketplace, right. So you wouldn't have to pay as much. But it hasn't happened that way at all.
Sure.
It's rare that that John Tavares left the, or that Ryan Suter bolted the Nashville Predators, as they did. Those didn't happen. So. It'll be interesting to see whether Malkin will actually leave the Penguins.
Right. I think teams do look at it too. That you're right. It hasn't happened the way anybody thought it was going to. It's to the same extent. But there's some teams who are willing to say, "Listen, we don't want to lose a player. We'd like to get something back for him. But if he does leave, we gain the cap space, right?" So that's
Although the fan bases have not bought that argument,
right?
Because I've tried to make that case too. That it's not like you lose them for nothing because you can just go out and get another player. But the problem with that thinking is, unless you sign a free agent, you have to give up something,
right,
to get something else.
Yeah.
I've tried to tell, in Detroit, there's been some discussion about whether or not, Steve Yzerman should pursue DeBrincat, who may or may not be available from Blackhawks. There's been some reports that he is available. And, the point I have to make is what that would cost to get DeBrincat is not something I think Yzerman would pay. He's not going to give up a first round pick and, somebody they might ask for Lucas Raymond.
Right.
DeBrincat has scored a lot of goals. So,
but I do think, and I hear you that would have to, but I think that there's other cases where teams now are forced to get rid of players because of the cap. And if GMs are smart, they hang around for that to happen. And then they almost get paid to take a player that is going to help in the one.
Yeah, for sure. But those players are never the top players.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
They're guys that,
I guess there's that like Taves that's playing well in Colorado now. Wasn't he in that situation with?
He was Nick Leddy, Detroit, where those. But those don't, And at the time, like Taves was playing well, but he wasn't playing as well as he is now.
And Leddy ended up playing not as well for Detroit as he was playing.
He did. He didn't play as well, although he played better once he got to St. Louis. I think he needs good players to take advantage of his ability, and the Red Wings simply didn't have him. So the free agency versus acquiring a player for assets is just a completely different ball of wax. So, and it's not, all player acquisitions are not created equal.
I know. It is funny looking back because I remember when we were going through that lockout where the Player Association was trying to fight to not have a cap. It really hasn't. I mean, all the predictions on both sides, really haven't come true the way they.
No, not even remote.
Yeah,
remotely. It really hasn't worked out. It's really worked the same way it always has, other than the fact that there's a control of.
What top center should the Rangers be shooting for? I don't know. I mean, I look at it this way. They have the team they have now. Obviously, Shesterkin is a big part of that team. He's the MVP, unquestionably. And they went to the semifinals. And they were, really one period away from getting up 3-0 against Tampa Bay, which would have meant they got a really good chance to get to the final. So I don't know. Okay, if you're going to go out and get a big-time center, first of all, who's better than Zibanejad? I think people don't always see what Zibanejad does at both ends of the ice.
Well, don't you think they're looking for a 2, not a 1?
Yeah. I like Barclay Goodrow. I don't know. I mean, did one of these young kids step up? Does Hedl step up and become number 2 centerman? He sure played like it.
I'll tell you one that makes some sense, and it's somewhat ironic, and I don't think it'll happen. And I actually think the Rangers would be better off to make a trade than sign a free agent. I know that sounds weird, but JT Miller.
Oh,
yeah, 90 some points. He's got some size. He's 6'1.5". He plays a strong game.
He's a winger though, right? He's
no, he's a center.
Is he center? And is he a free agent or?
No, he's got a year left on his contract.
Yeah.
So.
See, I don't know if I'm looking. We had the discussion prior to the trade deadline too, and we were kind of. I think they tried to go and do what you thought they should. I mean, like a Joe Pavelski kind of guy, but he ended up signing with Dallas. I don't know.
I think that the rumor is that they're going to sign Copp, who can play center.
Yep.
He can play anywhere up front. So,
right.
And Copp's a good player. There's no doubt.
Right. So I guess so. If Zibanejad is your number one sentiment, who do you think? And I'm really asking seriously. Who do you think's out there that they could get that's better than Zibanejad? Or you're saying it should be just a number two guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I've not heard any discussion about them looking for a number one center. The first time I heard it is just you just talking about it now about replacing Zibanejad. So, mostly what you've heard is people, saying they're going out to try to replace Strom. That Strom is really kind of a people used to say it's a number 3 center, but now I think they see him as kind of right at that tweener.
Yeah, I know, and I like him as a number 3. I don't think he as a second center.
But yeah, that's what people say. So that's what I've heard. They're going to try to. To do that. To me, a guy that would be great for him would be Trocheck. Trocheck, 54% face-off guy, gritty guy, has enough offense to give, he gives you more than Strom does. And his offense is, 20-plus goals, 60-plus points. With this team, maybe it'd be more, but really good player.
Love to get this guy. He's not. If he's going to retire, he's either playing.
Well, he's already said, I'm either retiring or I'm staying with the Bruins. So,
that'd be a nice guy. And so, what do you think, Drew? I thought you were going with Drew there. Where do you think he's going? Is he going to stay in Florida or go someplace else?
I think he might go elsewhere, but I don't know. I don't have it. He's a real unique player. I think he's going to stay east. I don't think he'd go west.
And then there's Johnny Hockey out there in Calgary too, right?
Yeah, but he's a winger. So I think to me, Gaudreau makes sense. Philadelphia really doesn't have the cap space to do it. They'd have to get rid of 2 or 3 players. But either Philly or New Jersey makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm thinking New Jersey for him. Yeah.
Unless you argue that they already have some smaller forwards, do you need one more? So.
Yep. I agree. And again, if you want to win, you look at all the teams that have won lately, big players, right? It's nice to have. It's nice to say, you get these small, fast players for regular season. When it comes playoff time, you still have to have that size. So.
Yeah. So anyway, it'll be interesting. But we appreciate everyone tuning in. And this has been the Wildlife Report. And
got it all done today.
Yeah, we had a little cooking as well, so we appreciate it. And but if you want to read me about hockey, I'm at Detroit HockeyNow.com and also HockeyBuzz.com.
Right, and we'd like to have everybody do some research on these disappearing rabbits as well.
Yeah.
And if you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports. We will see everybody on Wednesday.